Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So in the other video I mentioned I'm going to have to go to the hospital. With the whole Trump care thing, the whole Obamacare thing, it's a good time. I've tried to do this segment a few times and I've always failed at doing the segment. I tried to do it last night on Tim's show. I think it went okay. So I'm going to try it one more time on this one. Every time I've done it, I've gotten rid of the video. But I don't know the next time I get the opportunity, so I'm going to try it. And I'm going to try not to go into the weeds. What's the world you want? Honestly, what is the world you want? What's the society? What's the arrangement? If you had godlike ability, to this point, if you had godlike ability, how would you mold and craft a society to get the way that you want it to be? There's one caveat. You can't change human nature in this way. And what I mean is, you must in some way use the human nature that we have now. Human nature is malleable, meaning it can't change. But change is brought through experience, not necessarily brought through conversation. So, to some degree, currently, you have to deal with the people who you have. Meaning with the world the way it is in regards to how people tend to behave. And yes, I've argued that the structures themselves are why people behave that way. They're pushed into a particular thing based on scarcity. Now, to some degree, you have to take that into account. What's the world that you want, though? How would people behave in that particular world? Let's say there was no scarcity. How would people behave in that world? How would society be arranged? How do you create systems where you build these larger things? How do you get people to work together when you're not using this vulgar compulsion of you're not going to eat or sleep, get you to do those things? Now, let's step back from this for another perspective. Nothing exists or nothing matters. Ultimately, from a when you get down to the bare bones of it, and this is something I've wrestled with, it terrifies me because it's monstrous and yet it's liberating. When I delve down into it, I can remember all of these things. I have all of these facts that I can remember. I could beat this person in an argument. I am damn good at trying to get across my point and get across my opinion. I'm good at this. I'm bad at other things, but I'm good at this. When I play chess, I am good at chess. I'm bad at other things, but I'm good at this. So what? That's just something that you like to do. That's purely your conception. The value that you place on it, to some degree, is based on how good you are at it. I'm good at this, so I ascribe a certain amount of value to this. All of those things are things that you're ascribing value to. Just because you're smart, so what? Just because that guy can have sex very well, he's a porn star, he has a very long cock, so what? That woman is immensely beautiful, so what? So what? The value that people give it is purely this thing that intellect is being bared upon something. Certainly there has to be something more than that to actually give it value. Humanity at some point will be enveloped in the sun, meaning the sun is going to expand out to some point to engulf the earth. All levels of humanity would be extinguished. Protons, neutrons, scattered among the cosmos, never to be seen again, never to have existed, or no one to know that it ever existed in the first place. If there's nobody here to give humanity value, if there's no intellect to bear upon something, where does that value go? The value goes with the person who's looking at it. The point I'm getting at is ultimately the only thing you can say is that humanity bared its intellect upon something and found something valuable. I'm making a point that's not enough to say something is valuable. The moment that person, that intellect goes away, the value goes with it. That's not real. Where's the value? You're stuck with this gross thing of nothing has value, nothing matters. Nothing ultimately matters. Now that's terrifying. Linger at that place for a moment, and I'm hoping you're somewhat buzzed when you're lingering here. It's threatening. It's difficult to contend with sometimes. But by the same token, it also means that the only thing that matters is the thing that you do. What do you decide to do? What are the things that you decide to give value to? What do you choose to give value to? What do you put energy into? Now, what this means is, from the cosmos, the blackness of space to which nothing else exists outside of human conception. And yes, I'm not saying there are not other beings out there. I'm saying that from the standpoint of the humanity, what we know, what we can put our fingers on, none of this stuff matters. From the blackness of the cosmos, the nothingness, screams at humanity, shaking his fist. You apes! You apes! You had a lush planet by providence. You were on this planet. You could breathe that air. You grew. You evolved on that particular planet. You had all the resources that you would have ever need given to you on that particular planet. And this is what you did with it. Wars, poverty. You hoarded resources while other people starved. The billionaire stepping over the homeless man to get to his third house. This is what you've done with your world. What do you value? What are the things that are important to you? The fact that you have a billionaire and there's a homeless guy in the first place is a condemnation by that blackness. If you want to add a God to the mix, that's even worse. It's a condemnation of your God itself. Because if you're going to tell me that the thing that God created, man, has value because God created it, okay, shouldn't you honor that value? If you're telling me that you're an atheist and nothing matters, then the thing that's the most unique resource on that particular planet from your particular perspective in regards to the universe itself is that person. He is a unique individual with immense potential and capacity for amazing things, good and terrifying. You squander that resource. You hoard resources for some because those people have a vested interest in hoarding resources. It allows them a certain amount of power over the population. But you allow others to starve. That's the world that you've created for yourselves. Now, I don't want this to seem devious because it's not. The world that was created for ourselves, for the most part, was in scarcity. Now, you have a model in the sense of saying, okay, we're engulfed in scarcity, early man. And I found a gimmick, a trick, something that I can do to get people to give me some resource. Maybe it's bartering, whatever that resource is. And at some point, state comes along and there's cash. Now, as state coming along and as there's this thing of cash now, this thing of a resource that can be exchanged for work in that sense, meaning I can use this to have access to the things that I need to live my life. Everybody doesn't have to be a farmer. Some people could be computer programmers. Some people could be architects, physicists, physicians. I can use this thing now to exchange. A barter is like a measure of exchange of sorts. And again, you're still in scarcity. But I've come up with a gimmick. I've come up with a trick. I've come up with something that people like to listen to hear, to see, to do, to consume. And those people are willing to give me something. Now we have cash for this particular thing. We have schoolyard capitalism. And for the most part, you have people who are accruing a little bit more and pulling themselves out of scarcity. The problem is that schoolyard capitalism, as it proceeds, becomes its older brother, its older, meaner brother, who says the only thing I want is more. I just want more. I'm beyond scarcity at this point. At this point, I'm accustomed to this particular practice. I want to make this practice better because as a human being, I consistently try to make a better mousetrap. So yes, this thing that allows me to accrue excess wealth, I'm going to accrue more excess wealth. And guess what? To accrue even more excess wealth, I'm now going to put myself into political apparatus. This guy didn't start off this way. The person who initially started off may have been probably a good person. I'm saying that just that mechanism of scarcity in and of itself in that particular society starting off in that way gives you the society that you have. Now, nothing else exists. Nothing else matters. Meaning the thing that you choose to matter matters. That particular guy, over the course of the lifetime of his family, for that particular widget, that particular product, got into a mindset. More. I want more. I'm going to build this widget, and I'm going to do this thing, and I want more. I don't give a shit about the society. I want more. That's the thing that I choose to matter. The society be damned. I want more. I want more. When you get up in the morning, I'd argue that the thing that pushes you along is pain. It's pain. Trying to avoid it. Trying to escape it. Pain. I don't want to be broke. I don't want to be homeless. I don't want to be without. I want my needs met. Meaning you get up every morning and you go and do something that you may or may not like. Most people hate it. But you do something that you hate for 40, 50 hours, your entire day. You're tired when you leave. You've given yourself, your best aspect of yourself. You've become a cog in a wheel to something else for that person to get more. Now, whether the job that he's doing right now is socially necessary is irrelevant to him. He doesn't care. It has nothing to do with the society. It has to do with him getting more. You need food, clothing, and shelter. And we've created a monetary system that allows you to exchange that cash for those things. But understand, this was based in scarcity. We're not in scarcity anymore. History sticks to itself. So yes, that guy is going to persist with this idea of more. Even though you're not in a situation where, meaning, if you use the technical expertise of the people that you have on this planet, you can eliminate poverty and everything else. Everybody can have the things that they need. You need a different society to do that. You need a society that's not focused on this thing of scarcity, that's focused on this thing of producing the goods that people need. That's a sea change. That's a complete upheaval of the model itself for the betterment of people. Now, the problem is, in this particular model of scarcity, capital is all. You've subordinated man to his creation. And in subordinated man to his creation, what you realize is this is a tool of control. Now, no, it didn't start off that way. It started off as schoolyard capitalism. I'm making a point that schoolyard capitalism grows up. It goes to college. It goes into corporate world. It becomes something different, meaner, and uglier in that particular society. And it puts its roots into the political apparatus to accrue more. It's not crazy. It makes perfect sense. If that's the way you started with this idea of, I'm going to get a little bit more, get out of scarcity. Once you're out of scarcity, you're still, history sticks to itself. I'm going to continue to get more and more and more. I'm going to deify this thing that I myself have accrued because it allows me to get more. I'm allowed to subordinate everybody else. In a capitalist society, freedom is determined by how much capital you have, your degree of latitude, what you can do, where you can go. I ask the question. If you're working 50, 60 hours a day in a job that you absolutely hate, you come home, you're broken, all of the things that you have as a person were given to that particular thing in that particular time frame. Is that freedom? Is that freedom? And just calling yourself the land of the free and home of the brave, does that make it so? Is that freedom? It's a capitalistic society. When these politicians are screaming about freedom, dying on the flag, I bleed on this flag for freedom, they're not talking to you. They're talking to the people who are paying them. Your degree of latitude of freedom is determined by how much capital you have. It's a capitalistic society. Don't you know that? Where do you go on vacation? What do you eat for lunch? What do you eat for breakfast or dinner? How long do you have off? How much time do you have to spend living the life that you want to live? Those things are latitudes of freedom. I make the case to you that you've accepted something much less than what you should have accepted. What you consider to be freedom should be determined by the society as a whole. I make the argument that what we consider freedom should be higher up, based upon the resources of this particular nation. Why? Why is your latitude of freedom so low? Ask that question. Ask that question. So, I would make the point that your political apparatus, the thing that makes the determination, allows you to interact with government in order to shape the world the way you want to shape the world, your country the way you want to shape your country. I'd argue to you that's broken. That's broken. It no longer deals with the needs of the public. It deals with the needs of the people who are paying the politicians. Now, again, this didn't start off as sinister. It started off as something as, I'm trying to get out of scarcity. I'm making a point to you that as it's grown up, that's what it's become. Now, if you're having a conversation with someone, I've already made the point that nothing matters. Meaning what you choose to matter is the thing that matters. That guy who chooses to say, fuck society, I want more, to him, that's what matters. How do you get somebody who's in that mindset of this is what matters to me to buy your moral argument? When again, if the only thing that matters is the thing you choose to matter, so that moral argument is something that you yourself choose to matter. How do you break that shell? How do you crack that egg? How do you square that equation? Now, I'd argue that you could take several arguments in a sense of saying this thing is for the greater whole. My safety is ensured once everybody else is safe. if my needs are met and I know everyone else's needs are met, that's a fundamentally different society. There are no billionaires in that society, but everybody in that society is free. How do you make the argument? How do you make the argument? And look, this conception of society is not, I'm not giving this for nuts and bolts. I'm making the case of this is the context to the world to which you exist. What is the world that you want in relation to the world that it currently exists? And how do you put policy to move the world into that direction? Knowing full well that whatever policy you implement, there are real people associated with it, meaning those real people are going to behave in certain ways. How are they going to behave in that particular society? I find these questions fascinating, but I start from the premise of I want people to have their needs met. What are the problems that extend from that? And what do you do as a society to fix those problems? Any society you come up with are going to have things that you love and hate. There are concessions that you would always have to make. Technology is the X factor. It's the X factor. Now, in the capitalistic society, technology is a problem. Automation essentially puts people out of work. In the society I'm talking about, automation will be used to the betterment of humanity to automate processes so people don't have to do those jobs. We don't have people working just for the sake of working. But that's more of a technical thing when I get into legislation and everything else. My point in making this case is, what do you believe in? What do you value? What's the world that you yourself want if you can construct a world based in that particular way? What are the problems of that world? What are the problems of our current world? Understand how our current world took place and where we are in that current world. And if you move that world to your world, what are the logical problems that extend from the legislation you yourself will pass? Think of it in real world terms. I'm giving an example because I don't want to get too much in the weeds on it. I just want to kind of posit this thing of, what do you want? What do you want the world to be? You should have this image of it. It shouldn't just be randomly moving in a particular direction. There should be a very clear image of what you want the world to be. Push towards that image. What is the legislation? What are the problems of the legislation? How are you going to be attacked by the people who hate you for pushing this legislation? How are you going to get the people on your side in regards to a population? How are you going to get those people riled up enough where the pitchforks went out in regards to what these guys do, who you put in office? For that matter, the people who rise up to run and those people get in office. How do you get a sea change in the way humanity sees itself? How do you get the society itself to recognize, hey, there's a standard of living to which I'm willing to not go below? How do you get that enshrined into the public consciousness? Once you get that enshrined where the public looks at itself and says, I have a particular amount of value. As a person, I have worth. As a person, all of us in the society has worth. And we ourselves are not going to allow people to live beyond a certain level. Poverty is no more. We don't believe in it. We believe it's a detriment to humanity. And it causes all sorts of aberrant behavior in our society. All right, what does that world look like? How do you get to that world? And how do you get legislation to get you to that world? And what are the problems that spring up in getting to that world? I find it fascinating. Let me know. What do you want the world to look like? What should it look like? What are the problems associated with that particular world? Let me know. Thanks, guys. This went a little long. I was trying to keep it under a certain thing, but it's what it is. If you enjoy the content, feel free to share, write, subscribe, and you can always support the work through Patreon or PayPal. And like I said, pretty soon there's going to be a crowdfunding account associated with it because I want to start an organization to bring together other organizations. So, thanks, guys.